Jubel, our technician. Jubel, could you come over to help us for our reports? Jubel is our support staff. Magre-report kasi. So, ano kaya magandang...
Pwedeng i-share nila dito, Father, yung...
Abali, nandun sila kasi nasa Zoom sila.
Ay, sige, Father.
So, spotlight lang sila.
Yes, ano, Father. Alisin ko lang, Father, yung spotlight, Father.
Oo. So, our first reporter are the Augustinian sisters. So, who will report? Sister Odisa, no?
All of us, Father, the four of us, we divided the time.
Okay, who will be the first one?
Ako po.
Sister
Father, we
Odisa.
are to share our PowerPoint, share screen.
Yeah, one by one, ano? So it will be first Sister Odisa. That is Odisa.
Yeah.
Here. So we will naka-highlight na siya.
Pwede na po siyang Father, mag-share screen.
Okay, she can share screen. But we will highlight her first, no? Spotlight, sorry. Highlight pala, spotlight pala. Okay, and then after Sister Des, who will be the next speaker?
Sister Nena po.
Sister Nena, and then after Nena?
Sister Eugenia.
Eugenia. So 3. How about Sister Chuk? Is Sister Chuk reporting also?
No, Father, I will be the
We
one.
spared her, Father, because she was the one who made the PowerPoint.
Okay na, sige. Okay, so are you ready, Sister Odisa?
Apa.
Okay, so when you're ready, you can begin.
Yeah. Sister Troop, kindly share screen our PowerPoint. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Father. So we would like to present to you our congregation, the Augustinian Sisters of Our Lady of Consolation. Our congregation came about through the yes of these two courageous women, blood sisters. So we have Mother Rita Barcelo y Pages, OSA, and Mother Consuelo Barcelo y Pages, OSA. Our foundresses are Spanish women from Sevilla, Barcelona, Spain. Mother Rita was the second child, while Mother Consuelo was the youngest from the 5 siblings. So they have 2 brothers and 3 of them daughters. Then the other one is also a member, became a member of the Cistercians in Barcelona. So they grew up in a religious atmosphere and closeness to God. That no doubt that it was because of their hearts filled with God's compassion that they were moved to respond to the invitation and readily serve God's Anawim, the orphans of the cholera epidemic in 1883, and they became God's instrument of consolation to them. So these 2 were members of the Beaterio de Mantelatas de San Agustin in Barcelona. Sister Nana po, next.
So we trace our humble beginning in the year 1883. The cholera epidemic of 1882 in the Philippines caused the death of many Filipinos and left countless orphans. There were many abandoned orphans under the care of the Augustinian fathers, who later appealed to Augustinian monasteries. So that on January 1, 1883, Father Salvador Font, OSA, invited beatas from the Beaterio de Mantelatas de San Agustin to take care of the abandoned orphans whose parents died due to cholera epidemic in 1882. On April 6, 1883, was the arrival of the pioneer Spanish sisters. This is the first group from the Beaterio de Mantilatas de San Agustin in Barcelona, Spain, after a long sea journey to respond to the mission in the Philippines to attend to the care and education of the orphans. So love is what founded the congregation of the Augustinian Sisters of Our Lady of Consolation, which began in the Philippines. So this is the picture of Mother Consuelo with the sisters and the orphans. On April 29, 1883, the Beatas started their community and mission in Mandaluyong, Rizal. Months later, another group of 2 with Mother Consuelo, a postulant, then arrived to help in the care of the orphans. They extended their services to other children and places so that sometimes later Filipino ladies were attracted to their life. One defining moment is the acceptance of the 10 Filipinas who became the pioneer sisters of the congregation. It was named as Congregación de las Hermanas Terciarias Agustinas de las Islas Filipinas in 1885. So these are the pictures of our pioneer sisters. Thus, in 1887, the Spanish nuns returned one after another to Barcelona, aggregated by the American takeover of the colony. So Mother Rita persevered in this critical moment of the congregation. She was left here in the Philippines together with her blood sister, Consuelo, and the first Filipino sisters to continue the mission. Next slide, please. The 10 Filipino sisters were instructed to disband and return to their respective homes. However, they decided to stay for the mission under the leadership of Sor Teresa Andrada de Jesus, which is the root of Filipinized congregation. So at present, Sor Teresa Andrada is declared as the co-foundress of the congregation. In 1902, through the efforts of Mother Rita, our congregation was aggregated to the Order of St. Augustine and became one of the Women Institute of the Augustinian Order, 2 years after Mother Rita died in Spain. 2 months after the death of Mother Rita, Sor Consuelo, her blood sister, left Barcelona for Manila. She arrived in the Philippines in July 1904. It was in 1968 that the original name of Congregación de las Hermanas Terciarias Agustinas de las Islas Filipinas was changed to Augustinian Sisters of the Philippines. And in 1975, the congregation was issued the Decretum Laudis, elevating its rank to pontifical right by Sacred Congregation for Religious and Secular Institutes. On its first centenary year in 1983, the petition to change the name from the Augustinian Sisters of the Philippines to the present Augustinian Sisters of Our Lady of Consolation was approved on May 31, 1984 by the Sacred Congregation for Religious and Secular Institutes. 6 years after the centennial celebration of the congregation, a group of sisters decided to separate. Thus, another Augustinian congregation was born, the Augustinian Missionaries of the Philippines. But the ASOL, despite of the separation, continued its journey until at present to become signs of prophecy and hope with our fellow pilgrims. Thank you.
Our charism, we the Augustinian sisters of Our Lady of Consolation are called to incarnate the living faith, the compassionate Christ, in a community of friends and in humble enduring service to the needs of the church, especially the poor, through evangelization. So this is the original charism of our foundresses. In the infidelity to our charism and vision mission impels our fidelity to our charism impels us to read the signs of the times and to find in our own spirituality the essence of our Augustinian identity, the interiority, community, and mission. And our charism can be found in our life and mission. We have our education ministry, the social pastoral ministry, then also our missions in foreign land. So we have 21 schools here in the Philippines, and we have one kinder school in Indonesia. Under the social pastoral ministries, we have our TMMR, or what we call Tahanan Mapagkalinga ni Mother Rita. This is our center for children who are in need of special protection. Then we have our retreat houses, hospital ministry, and we have also our dormitories. We also have our mission in foreign lands. So we share our gift of faith to other countries, such as Taiwan, wherein we have our pastoral parish ministry. Then our sister is also engaged in migrant ministry and one in charge of assisting the bishop as the secretary. Then we also have the ministry to Aborigine or the indigenous people in Taiwan. In Thailand, our sisters are teaching and also engaged in pastoral ministry and assisting the bishop as the secretary, English secretary. Then in Vietnam, we have our formation house and also we engage in pastoral ministry. In Indonesia, we have our kinder school and we also involved in the pastoral ministry and we have our formation house. We also have our community in Italy, wherein we engage in migrant with our migrant workers, and also one of our sisters is teaching in an international school. In Barcelona, Spain, both in parish ministry and school apostolate, it's a kinder school where one of our sisters is teaching. And in Canada, we do have our pastoral ministry and engagement with the migrant workers. And also with Australia, our sisters are engaged in campus ministry and pastoral ministry. So in all these 8 countries, our presence is felt. So we have Canada, Spain, Taiwan, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Italy, and Australia. That's all, Father and classmates. Thank you.
You. So thank you to the Augustinian sisters of Our Lady of the Consolation. Let us clap for them in appreciation. Okay, one thing that I'd like to mention to all of you is the fact that the Augustinian sisters have a long history in the Philippines. No, you are one of the oldest religious congregations for women in the Philippines. Of course, the oldest would be the Religions of the Virgin Mary,
RVM.
the RVM, and then your congregation. What's the year again when the first sisters came together? 1875.
1883 po.
1883.
1883. So we are on our 140th po this April.
Yes,
Wow.
that's quite an
Yes,
important milestone. So that's why really I encourage you to persevere as a community. I know that it was difficult what happened. I know one of them, no, one of the sisters who joined the other group. No, it's not an easy experience, very painful perhaps, but just to encourage you to persevere because you have a long history in the Philippines and that is your contribution. Even if you are not too many, but still you are deeply rooted in our country. Okay, so in a sense, you have a responsibility, no, to continue your mission here, not just in the Philippines, but in different parts of the world. So congratulations to the Augustinian sisters.
Thank you,
Oh,
Father.
okay, what's the official name again? The official name is Augustinian Sisters
Of Our Lady of Consolation.
of Our Lady of Consolation. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, our next reporter will be Father Serge of the Congregation of Jesus and Mary, or the Eudis Fathers.
Okay. Can you see my
Yes.
PowerPoint now? Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So I belong to the Congregation of Jesus and Mary. In Latin, it's Congregatio Jesu et Mariae. So we're also known as the Eudis Fathers. So if the Augustinian sisters have a long history in the Philippines, we have a very, very short history here. We only came in 2006. But to be familiar with us, I show you now a slide showing this delectable and delicious ube jam. We are related to the Good Shepherd sisters, known for their ube jam in Tagaytay and in Baguio. So in a way, we share the same spirituality, and we trace both our history to St. John Eudes. St. John Eudes founded our congregation, the Eudis, on March 25, 1643. He founded the precursor of the Good Shepherd Sisters 2 years earlier. So we were founded not in Paris, but in Caen. It's a city in Normandy that would be about northwest of Paris. So it's the same place, the same area where the story revolving around Saving Private Ryan supposedly happened. No, the movie vaps among you would recognize this. Saving Private Ryan happened in Normandy, but the movie was not shot in Normandy. It was shot in Ireland. So the Normandy that we're talking about looks like this after the war. It devastated a lot of houses and buildings, including our own seminary in Caen. The very first seminary was destroyed there. The only thing that was left was 4 tiles of that. So this is a picture now of Normandy, where the Eudis have a big presence. But we are also also in Paris. Anyway, okay. So this is La Gloriette in Caen, Normandy. La Gloriette is a church which was built around 1684 to 1689. It was built by the Jesuits. So it's a Jesuits church. But the house here, La Vieille Mission, also known as Le Maison de la Mission, is the house that was built by St. John Eudes. It was the very first house of mission that was built by St. John Eudes. When it was founded, the first Eudes stayed in this particular house. So it looks like this from another vantage point. And there's a plaque that commemorates that this is indeed the house that where St. John Eudes, who calls himself as a missionary priest, stayed with his companion when he opened the seminary of the Eudes of Caen, and he also died in this same place. You know what happened in France? There was the French Revolution, and then the second persecution of the church in the 19th century. So all our properties were confiscated, but the Good Shepherd Sisters bought this place, and now it is one of the convents used by the Good Shepherd Sisters. So what are we? We are an international and clerical society of apostolic life. We were founded in France, as you already heard me talk about this earlier, and now we are present in 5 continents and 17 countries all over the world. We're not so many. We're only about 400 all over the world. Half of that is in Latin America, and in Asia, we're only in the Philippines. About St. John Eudes, our founder. So St. John Eudes lived from 1601 to 1680. That's a good 79 years, long for that time. No? And he belongs to the French school of spirituality. I mentioned this is because this is important in our church history, because the French school of spirituality was very, very influential in the church, especially from this century onwards until the Second Vatican Council. So there were the so-called masters of the French school of spirituality. Number 1 is Pierre Cardinal de Bérulle. He is actually the recognized founder of the French school. That's why the French school of spirituality is also called the Berullians. The next one is Father Charles de Condren, who was very influential among the other followers, namely Jean Eudes and Jean-Jacques Ollier, having served as their spiritual director. But St. John Eudes, of course, you now know, founded his own congregation, and so did Father Jean-Jacques Ollier. So there are many congregations that were inspired by the French school of spirituality. So here we have a timeline of the many different congregations that were founded. In the middle, top middle center, that's the time when the Congregation of Jesus and Mary was founded. That was in 1643. But note that the very first one that was founded was the Oratory of Jesus, which was founded by Pierre Cardinal de Bérulle, who was in a way like a theologian. No? He founded it in Paris, France. And the oratorians exist to this day, but since there are no more vocations, they are resigned that eventually they will die down. 1641, on the same year that the precursor of the Good Shepherd Sisters were founded, the Society of Priests of Saint Sulpice was founded by Father Jean-Jacques Ollier, also in Paris, France. Those of you who are taking biblical studies, you would know Raymond Brown. He's one of the more popular Sulpicians because of his work on biblical studies. 1680, Father Eric, take note of this. Institute of the Brothers of Christian Schools, the Sallian Brothers, they were founded by St. John Baptist de La Salle in Reims, France. So eventually they came also here in the Philippines and became a rival school of the Ateneum. So 1705, the last of the Berulians, Saint Louis de Montfort, founded the missionaries of the Company of Mary the Montfortians. They are also here in the Philippines in New Manila. So these are the more prominent congregations. There are a lot, both men and women, but I also only mention this because they're the ones that you might be familiar with. Just to situate, no, that we are in this one great movement in the 17th century France. You see, if the 16th century was the year of saints in Spain, counting among them, of course, Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint Ignatius of Loyola. For France, it was the 17th century. So there were a lot of things that was happening in France at that time, no? The socio-political milieu. But I just try to summarize it. No, there was a lot of violence in both political and religious front. So there was the so-called barefoot uprising. In French, they would call it banifide. It's actually an uprising against the tax imposed on them, particularly in Normandy, and people didn't like that. So it's like a rambling now, no, of the things people asserting themselves, which would eventually lead to the French Revolution. But it will come down at this point, no, for varied reason. And then there's also the Protestant and Catholic Reformation, of course, no, but there was a lot of violence between the two groups also. Well, France was predominantly Catholic, and there was a king at that time, no, King Henry IV, who left Protestantism to become the monarch of this Catholic nation. But even then, there were already some Catholics here and there, and there was a lot of bloodletting happening between the two. Because as we all know, the Reformation was not just a religious uprising, no, but also very political. Now, there was also another thing that needs to be considered is the Jansenism. It's basically a movement, a theological movement within the Catholic Church, which held some views that are not really along the way, the Catholic lines, no. So they believe in predestination, that only few will be saved, and they also believe, like Calvin, in the justification by faith, and they denied free will and the use of grace. So much so that the Jesuits opposed them, no. And you will know later that Saint John Jesus was aligned with the Jesuits, so he was identified with the Jesuits. So he earned a lot of opposition from this group. And then there's also the papacy and the French National Church tension, no. Well, we know from church history that France has always been asserting itself, not wanting to be controlled by Rome. So it is during this time. And then also the Council of Trent implementation was late in France. Other countries, Italy, Spain, Portugal, were already implementing some of the resolutions made at the Council of Trent, particularly the establishment of seminaries, but France was just so late in implementing it. And so, given all these things, there was really a need for church renewal, no? Because there were a lot of ill-prepared priests. In the common parlance, in Tagalog, we would say, dalawa, cinco ang pare. There were so many priests, there was no dearth in priests. There were a lot of people who would like to be a priest because the nobility and the rich people will always have a second son become a priest. The first son would become part of the military, but they were designed so that they can preserve their patrimony, their properties. And the poorer ones would learn and become a priest. Probably they really wanted it, but it's like a lifeline so that they can get out of poverty. They will learn only how to say the mass in Latin, probably understand it because French is so close to Latin, but they were not living the priesthood that was meant as it is. No, the priesthood of Christ was not lived as it is. And there were also a lot of nominal Christians like we do today. Well, because there were a lot of bishops who would rather choose to stay in the royal court which they pocketed. No? Uh, and then there's also the church and state connivance. No, it well we can say it's just a general what do you call that thing that's happening at that time. No, the church cooperating with the monarchy constantly trying to woo the support of the church. So in many ways, there was an alliance between the church and the state, but which would be marred sometimes, no, by some events that would happen. So we go now to John Eudes per se. No, he was born in 1601 in the small village of Ri. He is from a well-to-do family, probably we would say a middle class. This is a picture of the chapel where he was baptized. At age of 12, he received the first communion and the grace to consecrate his body through vow of chastity. So early on, I don't know, it was not explained in our history books what went on in his mind, but he somehow got the idea of taking a vow of chastity, offering his body, consecrating it to the Lord. In 1615, he entered a Jesuit high school in Caen. So that's the Jesuit connection. No? He had a lot of Jesuit mentors to influence him. In 1620, he received tonsure and minor orders. I think he intended to become a diocesan priest, but something happened on the way to priesthood. Pierre de Berulle visited that high school where he was, and he talked about the renewal of the church through the renewal of the priesthood. And somehow that idea got stuck with him. No, he liked the idea, and so in 1623 he joined the Oratory of Jesus in Paris. Remember, that's the congregation that was founded by Pierre Cardinal de Berulle. So he joined this particular congregation before he established his own. So in 1625, he got ordained as a priest. Unfortunately, he got sick. He was bedridden for 2 years, and he had nothing to do but read. And read what? The scriptures, the work of the church fathers. So in a way, it runs parallel to the experience of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Because when he was recuperating, no, we all know that that's the story. And somehow this particular year, 2 years, was a long retreat for him, which eventually influenced the way he acted on the will of God. So in 1627 and 1631, those were the years when France was affected by the Black Plague. No, similar, no, not really similar, but I guess in terms of you know the consciousness of the people, the urgency, the emergency that was happening at that moment. No, there were a lot of people dying here and there, and so people who were affected by the Black Plague had to be quarantined. And so what they did was to put all those who were sick outside the towns and the cities in the open field. That's how they did the quarantine at that time. But St. John Jude's um, feeling that God wants him to do something, serve those who are sick on two occasions, no? 1627 and 1631. He lived in wine barrels, uh, just like the people there, no? Yeah, in the picture. And he would say mass for them, bring communion to the sick, and help in whatever way he can. So that happened for 2 times. And considering that he was very sickly at the time, he was able to survive. Yes, he was affected for a time, but eventually he was able to survive the sickness. From then on, he became very active, no, in this so-called parish mission. It's if you know what the Redemptorists are doing here in the Philippines, they would go to far-flung barangays or barrios, stay there for 2 weeks, maybe 1 month, maybe 3 months, depending on the need of the people. And they would catechize the people in the morning. In the evening, they would have confessions and bring to life, no, the church, the nominal Christians to become really part of the church. And he would also respond to the needs of the people. Like if there were many orphans, he would establish an orphanage. If there were a lot of people who are sick and has no hospital to go to because they are in the far-flung areas of France, he would establish a clinic or a hospital. But always he would transfer it to the care of the people. So eventually he founded the Our Lady of Charity of the Refuge in 1641. That's the precursor of the Good Shepherd Sisters. He was challenged, no, by one Protestant woman who became a convert. This woman one day saw St. John Jude along with his companions going to the church to do what they're supposed to do, no, in the parish mission. But she accosted him and said, "Oh, Monsieur John Jude, where are you going? No doubt you're going to the church and pray to your saints in all piety, in all holiness. But see here, the women who were converted by your preaching, what are you going to do with them?" So the women that she was referring to were prostitutes. And so he was challenged by that. And in response, he established this congregation to take care of women in trouble. So that's the Good Shepherd Sisters now. 1643, he founded the Congregation of Jesus and Mary. He had a lot of trouble with, well, there was the founder, no, Pierre de Berulle. He died, and then the one who became the general was very good, no, to him. No? That was Father Charles de Condren, and he was very encouraging for St. John Jude's. However, when Condren died, another one took up the post who has another idea. No? He was not bent on following the inspiration, the original inspiration to Pierre de Berulle. And for a long time, St. John Jude's was having a hard time dealing with it. And eventually, after some discernment, he founded the Congregation of Jesus and Mary. He bolted out of the Oratory of Jesus, found companions from among the diocesan priests he was taking care of during the parish mission, teaching them how to become priests. And they joined him. No, they were the first member of the congregation. In his life, he founded 5 seminaries here and there. And I will just read the names, no, of these places: Caen, Rouen, Évreux, Rennes, and Coutances. So some of the seminaries are still standing. The one in Caen is no longer there. He also was a prolific writer. No, he wrote a lot of books to support his parish mission and his the seminary that he founded. By the way, the first seminaries that he founded were not really meant for seminarians, no, not meant for the students. It was meant for the diocesan priests who were ill prepared at that time, no, to live the life of a priest. It was only later that the seminaries would accept seminarians or students. Okay, 1648 and 1672 is milestone for the congregation, because 1648 was the first celebration of the feast of the Holy Heart of Mary, whereas 1672 was the first liturgical celebration of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. So this is probably what pushes St. John Eudes to do what he did, no, when he was still walking the earth, no, and it is the spirituality of the heart, no. At first, he was reluctant to write a mass and an office for Sacred Heart of Jesus, believing that at the heart of Mary is Jesus. So for him to celebrate Mary is to celebrate Jesus. But towards the latter part of his life, he would relent, no, and to the requests of many people, and he would write the mass and the office for the Sacred Heart of Jesus. These two particular what do you call, fruits of his apostolate would mark him, earning for him the title the Father, the Apostle, and the Doctor of the liturgical devotion to the heart of Jesus and Mary. Because before this, there were a lot of devotion, but very personal. These were the first times that the heart of Mary was recognized, honored, and the Sacred Heart of Jesus was celebrated in public. So he died in 1680, right after writing his Memoriale de Beneficiorum Dei, and in 1925 he was canonized. In 2006, the Eudes came from various countries. Those who know how to speak English, at the invitation of Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle, then Bishop of Imus, and we were first in Tagaytay. But since we have since come down here in Quezon City, because we realized that we need more reliable, more stable theological resources. Anyway, the charism of the Eudes. The starting point for the Eudes is really the greatness of God's love. And we can actually deeply recognize that when we experience nothingness. Nothingness in terms of probably experience of difficulty in which we cannot control anything. And nothing is nothing if it is not an openness to God's love. No? So the nothingness that St. John Eudes would talk about will actually mean the openness to God's love, and to experience it as God's mercy. And we felt like we were affirmed by Pope Francis when he declared the Year of Mercy early in his pontificate, especially when he defined mercy as love in action. So we are all invited to participate in God's movement in the world, to renew the face of the earth by becoming missionaries of mercy. So among ourselves, we would call ourselves, among the Eudes, we would call ourselves missionaries of mercy. And what is the Eudes mission? How do we manifest, how do we concretize this charism? It is the two-pronged mission of evangelization and formation of good workers for the gospel. For evangelization, we mean parish administration, parish mission, retreats and recollection, spirituality centers. But more and more now, we're doing a lot of on-site, online talks. Some Eudes operate a radio station, very Catholic, internet podcasts, TV shows even, especially in the Latin America, and schools and universities as well. Formation of good workers for the gospel traditionally would find its expression in seminary formation, especially in dioceses. But since a lot of congregations now are doing it, as well as diocesan priests are stepping up to do it on their own, we have tried to enlarge that particular mission, no? So that when we say good workers for the gospel, it also means we include the lay leaders. So parish formation programs for lay leaders is one expression of this. All this to contribute to the renewal of the church, to hasten the coming of God's kingdom. This is how we are formed, though we have a minimum of 8 to 11 years of initial formation. That would include a year of special time of UDIS formation and a year of international exposure. We used to be regarded as a religious congregation, and we even use religious nomenclature. We had aspirancy, postulancy, novitiate, but after Vatican II, with the canon law of 1983, when the Society of Apostolic Life was recognized as another category, we dropped all those vocabulary and established our own. So instead of novitiate, we have a year of special time of UDIS formation, and then a year of international exposure, which is more or less a pastoral exposure. But since we are an international congregation, it has to be in another province. So we become UDIS through incorporation. It's equivalent to taking the vows or the profession. No? The candidate makes a lifelong commitment to live and die in the congregation of Jesus and Mary. It's a promise. We take no vows in the context of the congregation, but we live them. Our vows are in the context of the ordination. No? So we do have celibacy, we do have obedience, no? The vows of obedience, but we don't have the vow of poverty. But as I've said now, we live them by putting together the resources that we had. The good thing about this is we can inherit properties from our parents, no? But per experience now, eventually the UDIs would donate it and give it to the congregation. We find holiness in working together for the mission. So that's it. And why? No, the original focus were the diocesan priests in their formation. St. John Eudes did not want them to claim that the priests of the congregation, that is CJM, UDIs now, can live priestly life faithfully because of their vows. St. John Eudes wanted us to model a holy life as priests, even without the evangelical vows. So in a way, we're straddling the best of both worlds, no? The religious and the diocesan, living together as if we are religious, but we, in a way, do our mission just like the diocesan. Probably the only difference would be the emphasis on community. So there you have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Father Serge, for your presentation. You know, of course, we all know St. John Eudes, no? But I've never kind of read really much on the life of St. John Eudes. So because of your presentation, I was able to get to know more about St. John Eudes himself, his biography, but also the spirituality of St. John Eudes and the congregation. It's quite interesting. Yeah, you're correct, Father Serge. Our congregations, we have some, points in history that we came together. In fact,
yes, Father.
St. John Eudes studied in a school established by the Jesuits, no?
Yeah, that's right.
It was 1615, early, very early. That must have been one of the very first schools established by the Society of Jesus, because the first schools were established in Italy, in the southern part of Italy, and soon after, when the Jesuits arrived in France, they also probably that's the first school of the Society of Jesus established in France. And of course, we all know the Good Shepherd sisters. Who do not know the Good Shepherd sisters? So that's interesting. So, Father Serge, when did the Good Shepherd sisters came to be called as such? Because originally that was not their name.
Yeah, Father. They live a monastic life before, no, as was established by Saint John Eudes, so that each convent would be like Our Lady of Charity of the Refuge, Our Lady of Charity of the Good Shepherd. Another house would be called another name now, but it's always Our Lady of Charity. But it came about when Saint Mary Euprasia, it would be like almost 2 centuries after, had an idea that convent should share resources, because each convents had their own novitiate, had their own posthumacy and aspirancy, and they never shared. No, the only sharing that they would have is a group of sisters will be sent to establish another convent. But Saint Mary Euprasia had this idea of sharing resources, but the other sisters thought that she was ambitious, that she wanted to become a big shot, the big boss of all the different convents. So she was rejected by many of our sisters. So for a long time, no, since the 19th century, moving forwards to our time now, they were split. So there was the OLC, and then the Our Lady of the Good Shepherd of Our Lady of Charity of the Good Shepherd. That's their official name in Vatican. And then the original was Our Lady of Charity of the Refuge. But probably 2015, they reunited. They became one again.
Okay.
But the surviving entity is the Good Shepherd.
Good Shepherd sisters. Okay.
Because I was able to meet the original one, no, and of course the Good Shepherd sisters here. I felt the same, no. They had the same work, the same spirituality. I felt they were really kindred spirits, no. So that when in the process of merging together, they also realized that they're not really different from one another. So it's really the spirit that was moving in them.
Yes, thank you. I remember you mentioned about the context of France at the 18th century, in the 1600s. You mentioned about the Jansenists, no?
Yes,
Of course, you know, even from the foundation of the Jesuits were very loyal to the Pope, no? Jesuits would sacrifice their lives for the Pope. And at that time, you know, because the Jansenists were challenging Catholic teaching, the Jesuits, confronted the Jansenists, no? And there were a lot of people who began to hate the Jesuits. And then the monarchy of France was so much against the papacy. Why would the papacy
that's right.
their mind? Why are they intruding into the affairs of our people? So the monarchy was so much against the papacy. And because the Jesuits were known to be very supportive of the papacy, many people also attacked the Jesuits, not just in France, in Portugal, in Spain, where there are strong monarchies. Until such a time, we were able to pressure the Pope himself. The Pope himself, the person himself, who was very much supported by the Jesuits. So the Pope suppressed the Society of Jesus. By just a signature, he dissolved the Society of Jesus all over the world. So that was the suppression of the Jesuits. So very much part of the history of the life of St. John Eudes.
Yeah, and St. John Eudes was really identified with the Jesuits during his time.
I could imagine St. John Eudes and the first Eudes helped the society, helped the Jesuits during those very difficult times, now when we were all exiled from Europe and especially the Spanish territories. So in fact, here in the Philippines, the Jesuits were here already, established parishes in Luzon, here in Antipolo, in the 1600s, in the Visayas, in Samar, Bohol, in Panay Island. When the decree of suppression arrived in the Philippines, all the Jesuits were placed in the ships and they were all expelled on exile, I think back to Italy, somewhere in an island in Italy.
Wow.
So anyway, so thank you for that. Difficult times bring good friends together. And during these difficult times, for once, we see it as all darkness, but it somehow it strengthens all of us, all our religious congregations. I'm sure all our religious congregations experience these dark moments in our history, no? And whether it be in ancient history or in modern times, we all experience these challenges. So thank you for that, for your report, Father Serge. Later, when we
Thank you too, Father.
when we discuss the canonical aspect of our lives as consecrated people, we will discuss more closely the societies of apostolic life. We will understand more the life of these consecrated men, but there are also women who are called societies of apostolic life. They're not religious institutes, as mentioned by Father Serge, but we will see that in our future classes. So thank you. Let's clap for Father Serge. Thank you, Father Serge. So our next reporter is Sister Leselda of the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary.
Mary, yes, Father.
Okay, so let's welcome Sister Leselda.
I'll share screen now.
Yes.
So this is it, the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary. Founded by Mary of the Passion, who was born in Nantes in France on May 21st, 1839, Pentecost Tuesday, into a noble Christian family. She was baptized on the following day in the Church of Saint Clement with the names Helen Marie Philippine de Chapotin de Neuville. He was the youngest of the 5 children, 2 boys and 3 girls, of Charles de Chapotin de Neuville, was a public works engineer, and Sophie Galbaud de Fort, families of the aristocracy whose history had already crossed in the distant West Indies. Full of character, vibrant, she showed from her childhood eminent natural gifts with a deep faith. She was the joy of the family then. She has deep respect for the Pope and the Church, so much so that she called the Pope as the Alter Christus. She loved to read the nice stories about Jesus and the Gospel, and often made the way of the cross by herself. Unconsciously, as a child, she loved not only the poor, but poverty. So there was this occasion where they were invited by the Countess, and she led a group of children to disguise as a beggar with a child, with one Celine also, that the daughter of the Countess. They roam around begging with their nannies, with their yayas following them. That is for the poor. And at the age of 8 or 9, she founded Saint Anne's Association, of which the proceed of this is really for the poor. And it lasted only for 3 years, since she was admitted into the Children of Mary, the sodality of that. In 1856, at the age of 17, during a retreat of the Children of Mary in the Sacred Heart Sisters Convent, before the Blessed Sacrament, she had this mystical experience and was overwhelmed by the love of God, which says, "I am the one who will always love you more than you will ever love me." So since then, she had this desire already to become a sister. And in 1860, December 9, she was 21 years old then. With the consent of the Bishop of Nantes, she entered the Poor Clares, whose ideal of the simplicity and poverty of Saint Francis attracted her. But in January 23rd, 1861, she had this another mystical experience and was forced by ill health to return home. Another mystical experience wherein, since she had this devotion to the Pope, her altar Christus, she heard a voice telling her or asking him, "Are you willing to be crucified in place of the Holy Father?" And she said, then yes. Following the advice of her spiritual director, Father George Petit is J, Father. On the eve of her 25th birthday, she bade goodbye to her family to join the Sisters of Mary Reparatrix in Paris and took the religious name Mary of the Passion. And in 1865, she was sent, still a novice, to the mission of Madurai in India, a recent mission of the Jesuits, who requested the collaboration of the Reparatrix for the formation of the Indians. And in that particular place during that time, there was this division within the church. And also, there was this difficulty of in the formation of these local sisters, the Indian sisters, wherein they are really hard to follow, according to the book that I read. She took her first vow in 1866 and was appointed superior of the community of Tuticorin, and the following year as provincial of the 3 communities of Madurai. So as junior, she was already charged as provincial of that 3 communities. And in 1871, she made her final vows. In 1875, she opened a new community in Ootacamund at the invitation of Monsignor Bardo, MAP, which is in the Vicariate of Coimbatore. Mary of the Passion lived and worked in India for 11 years, rich in human and missionary experiences and spiritual deepening. She really made the mission in India flourish during her time as the provincial of the Reparatrix sister. Serious difficulties, so here we are, had arisen in Madurai mission. And because of misrepresentation and insincerity on the part of some persons, Mary of the Passion suffered humiliation of being deposed from her office as provincial. And all the sisters were given these alternatives. It's either to submit, total submission, and recognize tacitly the truth of the accusation which is thrown to Mary of the Passion, or to leave the society. And so 20 sisters then decided, according to their conscience, to leave the society. And on June 19, 1876, they wrote the Superior General and to the Sacred Congregation of the Propaganda Fide the decision they had made. And in August 1876, a decree from the higher authority sent the 20 sisters back into the world without releasing them from their vows. So they are still vowed life when they were living in outside when they separated from the Reparatrix sisters. And for Mother Mary of the Passions, knowing that the situations had just begun, pleading with these words to the sisters, to promise never to speak badly to those who were causing their suffering, no matter what happened. So here is the foundation of the Institute of the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary. Mary of the Passion felt responsible for the group, and so with Bishop Joseph Bardo's advice, went to Rome with 3 sisters on November 1876 to clarify their situation. And it was through the help of son of one of the sisters, who was the suave of the papal, one of the papal suave, and also of the help of the father of one of the sister who was a count. So that it was on January 6, 1877, on the feast of the Epiphany, at the age of 37, they obtained permission from Pope Pius IX to remain in Monsignor Bardo's vicariate as Institute of the Missionaries of Mary and in any other diocese, and approved the start of a novitiate in France. At the demand of the Propaganda Fide, Mary of the Passion quickly wrote for the Institute of the Missionaries of Mary, the life of the Missionaries of Mary. So here is our charism. A life that is entirely dedicated or oriented towards the universal mission, of which the whole world, according to our mother foundress, the whole world is our home. Be ready to go anywhere to anyone. And for us FMMs, we have this joke for ourselves. We are jack of all trades, but master of none. So yun yung joke namin. And our life is centered on the Eucharist. The Eucharist, it is where we draw our strength so as to be able to also do our mission after. And that is in our Constitution, Chapter 2, Article 9. One of our charism is our thus offering of self without reserve. So anywhere to anyone, anytime. And of course, in imitation of Mary, in her total disponibility, whom marveling at God's gratuitous gift, attentive to listen to the word and keep it, open to the needs of others so as to bring them to her Son. Constitution Chapter 2, Article 10. And this charism is stipulated in the formula of our vows, which says, following Christ in the Spirit, I give myself unreservedly to the Father after the example of Mary and Francis. I offer my life for the Church and the salvation of the world. I dedicate myself to Eucharistic adoration and to the evangelization of peoples, and I commit myself to live in fraternal community. So, how about our entrance to the Franciscan family? Mary of the Passion wanted to assure the future of her sisters in India, as well as of the young people who were preparing themselves. She also felt the need to rely on the support of a strong spiritual family. There, she providentially met a superior of the Franciscan Friars Minor, Father Rafael de Labre. And in October 4, 1882, Mary of the Passion and the sisters were admitted into the Third Order Regular of Saint Francis. Regular because we have the so-called Third Order Secular. So we are in the Third Order Regular. And in August 12, 1885, 5 years later, Missionaries of Mary were called Franciscan Missionaries of Mary, with a generalate and mother house in Rome. mission to the four corners of the world opened out before them. The life of Mary of the Passion and her first companions were characterized by joy, simplicity, poverty, family spirit, and total abandonment to the will of God. And so when Mary of the Passion died on November 15, 1904, at the age of 65, there were more than 3,000 FMM sisters working and offering their lives for the kingdom at the service of the evangelization. And she was beatified, our mother founders was beatified October 20 in 2002. And at the moment, we are present in 5 continents, 75 countries, and 79 nationalities. Our arrival to the Philippines was on December 12, 1912. So here is the story. In 1911, Bishop Petrelli sent his brother Gustave Petrelli to Europe in search of English and Spanish-speaking nuns. Father Petrelli met Mother Marie Alexandre in Belgium in November 1911. Through her, he relayed his brother's urgent appeal for sisters to Mother General Marie de la Redemption, who happened to be in Paris, the departure of several groups of FMM sisters for various mission posts. Feeling tired, Mother Marie de la Redemption sent her secretary, Mother Marie Jean, to receive the visitor. Her message was brief. For the moment, the good bishop's request could not be accommodated, for there were no enough sisters to spare. Disappointed, yet quite resigned, Father Petrelli rose to leave, but discovered that his valise, his suitcase, was missing. A group of sisters who left for England that day had taken them by mistake. So yun yung story. So Mother General went to the parlor to apologize Father Petrelli, found this moment and reiterated his brother's request as the errant suitcase was being rushed back to the Mother Marie de la Redemption had this change of mind and promised to send 6 sisters to the Philippines. But actually, she sent 12 sisters to the Philippines. So they arrived, we started our mission here in December 1912. So our current mission here in the Philippines, we have school apostolate. We have 4 schools, Stella Maris in Cubao, Stella Maris College in Oroqueta, St. Joseph's Academy in Sariaya, and the Lumen Christi Catechetical Center in Cubao. We also have this, we consider this as our apostolate or ministry, since our congregation nowadays have more sick, and elderly sisters. So we have this as one of our ministry, that taking care of our sick and elderly sisters. And we also have ministries with the migrants. We have pastoral ministries, specifically basic ecclesial community. And for our other ministries, we have boarding house in Baguio, retreat houses in Cebu, GMA, Cavite, and Tagaytay. And we also do the guidance and counseling, retreat giving, and spiritual direction. We also actively involved with our Franciscan movement of justice, peace, and integrity of creation. We do networking also with the NGOs and other religious organizations. So this is the word of Monsignor Bishop Petrelli then. If the daughters of Mary of the Passion are in the Philippines, it is thanks to my brother's valise. Thank you po.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Leselda. Okay, wait.
Yes, Father.
Have to. Okay. So that's quite an interesting history, no? Sister Leselda, maybe you can fix a little your video. Okay, there, good.
Yeah.
Sure, it's okay na. So, one thing that struck me was, the life of Sister Mary of the Passion. She was a junior and she was already in India.
Yes, Father.
In fact, she became
As a novice pa, Father.
a novice pa. And she became provincial while she was in India.
Yes, Father. As
Wow.
a junior.
The junior sister. And that was early on in the late 1800s. She was a real missionary, no? And I think that's the reason why you have a good number of Indian sisters. No, you have a strong presence in India.
Yes, Father. 5 provinces in India.
Okay. In which country are you most numerous? Is it in India?
Yes, Father. As
Okay. And then what are the other countries where you have a good, strong presence?
Vietnam, Father.
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Yes, in Asia in particular, continent of Asia.
How many are you
Vietnam.
in Vietnam, more or less?
I'm not sure, Father. I don't have the number of our Vietnam sisters, but it's in good number.
Is it a province?
Yes, Father.
Separate province?
Yeah. Later on, by October of this year, we will be merged and become a region. 3 countries or 3 provinces will be merged and
And
become a region.
which
Vietnam,
provinces?
Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and Philippines.
Philippines. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Father.
So thank you to that suitcase, no, of the brother
Yeah.
of the bishop. And when the first 12 sisters came, where were they assigned? Where did they go?
In Lipa, Father.
Lipa. Okay.
Lipa, Batangas. Because
So your first presence was in Lipa.
and then we go to Atimunan,
Quezon.
Sariaya, yeah, Quezon
The
part.
Tagalog areas.
Yeah, Father.
Okay. Yes. And of course, Stella Maris is the most prominent school of the Franciscan missionaries of Mary. Quite prominent. In the Philippines, in Metro Manila, there are these schools and colleges for women only. And they are competing with one another. They're very good schools. The Stella Maris College, you have Saint Scholastica of the Benedictine Sisters. You had Miriam College, it used to be called Marinol. Of course, Assumption College by the Assumption Sisters. One of my cousins studied in Stella Maris in Cubao. Yeah. And when was Stella Maris College founded, sister? Do you know? Unmute yourself, Sister Leselda.
Father, sorry, but I
Okay,
didn't go.
I guess it was early on, probably before the war, before the 1942, the Stella Maris College was already present, or at least the basic education, the elementary and high school. And also, one important contribution of the FMM sisters is their Lumen Christi Catechetical Center. It was in fact, it still exists, no? It still exists, Sister Leselda, no?
Yes, Father. Father, I have here.
Oh.
Stella Maris College was established in 1946.
Oh, okay, just soon after the war.
Yep.
After the liberation of the Philippines from Japan. Okay, 1946. Yes, so you might have some questions for Sister Leselda, our lone FMM sister in the class. Where do you reside, Sister Leselda? Are you in Cubao?
I'm here in Cebu, Father.
Are you in Cebu? Okay.
Yeah, Guadalupe.
Okay. So thank you so much. Let's clap for Sister Leselda and
Thank you po.
FMM, Franciscan Missionaries of Mary. Okay, it's already 3:25. Yeah, it's 3:25. Let's take a break. Can we come back here at 3:40? Okay, for the next reporter. Our next reporter will be the Levens of the Immaculate Heart. That will be Sister Marian, correct? After the break. Okay, see you at 3:40. Sorry, it should be 3:45. Sorry, 3:45. Okay, see you at 3:45. Pass. So now we have Sister, Sister Marian to present to us the congregation of the 11 of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Okay, let's welcome Sister Marian.
Good afternoon, classmates and Father. So, our congregation, the 11 of the Immaculate Heart of Mary Sisters.
Okay, Sister,
Father,
okay, you can share your screen. Okay, there, yes, we can now see your. Thank you. Very nice.
We are the Sisters of the 11 of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. We are a community of religious women living a life of prayer, penance, and apostolate in the spirit of Mother Mary.
We offer our lives like Mary at the foot of the cross, and united with Jesus Christ, the victim priest, we become leaven of his work of salvation.
As missionaries, we are dedicated to the evangelization of the young and the sanctification of the family. Our goal is to be leaven in the world, placing ourselves in the loving service of God and neighbor.
Unmute yourself, Sister Marian. Unmute yourself. Okay, you're okay, Sister.
okay, Father.
So our founder is Father Edgardo Arellano. We call him our charismatic founder because we have another one whom we call a canonical founder, Bishop Leo Drona SDVDT. They are both Salesians po. And Father Bing, we call him our charismatic founder, is touched by the inspiration coming from the Our Lady of Fatima. And from there, you can see that he's a Marian priest. He believed in the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. And as a Salesian, he also brought with him that spirit, like care for the youth. And lately po, you will see how we share to that charism po. And being touched by the message of Our Lady of Prayer and Penance, our community started in the late 70s and early 80s po with the instrumentality of these two teachers. Two teachers in the public school. Doon po nag-start ang aming congregation as Father Bing, one time in his life, called teachers from public schools. He gave seminar to these teachers in order to build leaders for the church po. And these two teachers were one of those generous persons in the public schools po in Manila, especially po Tita Meng, known with her name Tita Meng and Tita Lina. Now they are called Mother Ann and Mother Angelica. They are still alive po as Father Bing and Bishop Drona is. They're still working with us now.
Excuse me, Sister Marian, could you click the slide number 2?
Oh.
So that it will be enlarged so we can see on the screen. Could you click the pictures of Bishop Drona and Father Arellano?
Okay. Am I showing na po? Hindi po.
We can only see the
Maybe there.
There, okay, that's good.
Okay. That's Father Bing po and Bishop Drona. And this is Tita Meng and Tita Lina. They were both public schools teachers po. And during those times, the first community, as you can see po, the one who followed them also were teachers. These 5 on top are the first teachers to respond in that seminar, but led by Mother Angelica and Mother Ann. And the one on the bottom part po are those other teachers who followed after them. The community's motto is Fiat mi secundum verbum tuum. Be it done unto me according to your word. As we believe much in the powerful intercession of Our Lady, we as Levens try to follow that fiat in the mission entrusted to us in the church po. I'll jump po to the history of our community. As I've said, the congregation started po in 1977 with a teachers leadership seminar in Antipolo, Rizal. This was to form teachers to be leaders to the young people because, as you can see from the picture, in those times, we are in the in prep for the EDSA revolution po, wherein in those times, the late 70s and early 80s, the youth are lost. There's so much going on, especially as we are influenced by political ideas in those times. And those days also, the youth are introduced to drugs, alcoholism, and so many other things. Like the youth are so lost. And that was one of the inspiration of Father Bing to bring these teachers to be leaders who will take care of the young people, especially in the public school po. And I am one of them na I witnessed it was 1994 when these sisters are not yet sisters po. They were still teachers in the public schools who really do catechism to the youth with their means, with all their means, no, generously giving themselves. But in 1991, here we can see the first house of these sisters, but they are not yet sisters that time po. They are just volunteer catechists, like private association po, who really cater to the youth, helping the youth in their studies. And we have this so-called Mary Help of Christian Crusade, a Marian movement in the public schools, wherein they are forming youth leaders po in the different public schools. And later on, those leaders became the followers po. And some of the youth leaders already became priests at this time po. And in 1994, the first perpetual profession happened in the congregation. And there were already 12 perpetuals that time under the supervision of Bishop Leo Dorona, who is the Emeritus Bishop of San Pablo this time. So going back po, and in those long years, as you can see po at the bottom part, our community focused on catering to the students of public schools. From 1985 to 1992, there are so many apostolate mission in the public school, wherein this Mary Help of Christian Crusade really flourished in the different public schools. And in 2010, this is the first time from 1994, the sisters were already knowing that they are in the diocesan right. We were caught in our attention from Vatican that we need to redo our processing of our papers. That's why you can see here 210. It's just the public association that our community started. This is the time that Vatican already came in our midst to assist us, to help us in our processing. And 2022, this is the time that you were already given the approval, already although the written approval is not yet in our hand, but we're given from our commissary bishops who are assisting us, who is Bishop Tobias from the Emeritus of Novaliches. He's helping us this time. So from those times, wherein the apostolate for the youth was ongoing, also our little communities in the different places in the Philippines started also. As you can see from the timeline, 1991, our first, after the first house in Andalusia, Sampaloc, 1991, we had our Rosales, Pangasinan. This place started with our daycare center. We call that place Silong. Silong meaning, because in the earlier times, the houses in the province, they have the silong, wherein our sisters started with the small room. That small room is divided into their sleeping room, the daycare room, that becomes a daycare room during the day. In the evening, it becomes the sleeping area also. Everything happens there in that square, small place of Silong. But this time, we already transferred in Pozorubio, Pangasinan, wherein our other schools are situated, which you will see later on. 1992, we had our San Jose, Nueva Ecija community. 1994, Alaminos, Pangasinan. 1996, Pantabangan, Nueva Ecija. 1997, Cebu City. 1999, Santo Domingo in Nueva Ecija. And 2000 was Dover, USA. 2002, Melbourne, Australia. 2002, also the same, Nebraska, USA. 2004, Santa Cruz, Laguna. Cubao, in 2005, Cubao, Quezon City. 2009, San Pablo, Laguna. 2012, Novaliches, Quezon City. 2013, Alabama, USA. And 2019, our mother house here in San Pablo, Laguna. And 2020 in Ohio, USA. From those small communities po, I would like to journey with you the different apostolate at the moment that the sisters are doing po. Here in Pila, Laguna, the one for Santa Cruz, we transferred a bit po. Next town is Pila, Laguna, where our juniorate and novitiate formation house is. Despite it is being the formation house, we also cater to the youth formation of the parish. Also, we also do our parish choirs. And this one, we call it Communal Preparation Vigil, wherein the devotion to the Sacred Heart and the Immaculate Heart of Mary is being done every first Friday and Saturday of the month. The second house is in Lim, Melbourne. Their current apostolate is Youth Ministry, accompanying the youth through, as we call, Mary Help of Christian program, parish youth program, and other young adults formation for the young professionals. The third house is what we call Lim Powerhouse in San Marcos, Laguna. Their main apostolate is to pray for the Lim vocations and missions. This is a place where our sisters who are having also their difficulties and problems, they go there for recharging. The fourth community is Lim Art Transient House in Quezon City. This is where the meeting place of the sisters whenever they are in Metro Manila. But these sisters, the four sisters, caters to the parish youth ministry, MHCC online apostolate, the monthly communal preparation vigil, and assistant administrator of a school in one of the PNP schools in Quezon City. The fifth community is our Lim Cubao Mission. They are under the parish of Nativity po. They cater to the parish youth ministry, MHCC youth and animators, catechists, online prayers and formation, private and Catholic students, religious instruction, especially the one of San Lorenzo private school in Binondo, Manila. And they also do the parish choir and lay formation and retreats and recollections they do in Cubao. The sixth is the Lim Lagro Mission in Novaliches. They are working in St. John Beverly High School po. And also in Ascension Parish, wherein they do the choir in the daily mass. The seventh mission house is in San Jose, Nueva Ecija. They are with the parish priests doing the barangay mission for the youth in a weekly formation and leadership formation in the parish for those coordinators. And they also do the coordinating work for the parish youth activities. The eighth community is the Mary Help of Christian boarding school in Pozorubio. We have two houses po in Pozorubio. As you can see, MHCBS for the boarding school and MHCLC for the learning center. This is the elementary school po, wherein the sisters are the one administrating. Also teachers, for other teachers, sisters are teaching staff in the school. Despite that, they also try to cater to the, we call Mary Help of Christian Catechism in public schools. And so we also have the communal preparation vigils in Pangasinan that they cater every first Friday and Saturday. And also the parish choir for the daily mass. The 10th mission house is in Cebu. The same. They also do the youth ministry. And they also work, some of our sisters do the teaching thing in Maria Montessori in Talamban. One of our work, we do our family visit, enthronements, and the communal preparation vigil. And they, as we're still small, so they also try to cater the one our mission in Cagayan de Oro, El Salvador, and Misamis Oriental. So they also do some lay associates formation. And the 11th mission house in USA po, which is in Alabama, they are teachers in Sacred Heart School, elementary and high school po ito. And catechists in St. Bernard Preparatory School. And also they work for the parish youth ministry. The one po in USA, Nebraska mission, our sisters are teaching in St. Michael School, and they also work in the early childhood. It's like a daycare center po, also in the parish. And one of them is in charge of the education center for the catechism classes there. And another mission house in Ohio, USA Mission, they work in the parish apostolate again for the youth, and one of them is the religious education director po in Notre Dame Elementary School. Another one is we call it Lymphiat House. It's a house for our elderly sisters. As of now, there are 2 po sisters. As they are we call them our prayer powers also. But still, Mother Angelic, as the co-foundress, she's still on fire, and she works with the youth ministry in Pampanga, in Macabebe. And another mission where our sister, because Sister Geraldine, our psychologist po, she works with the ICST in Vigan. She is their guidance counselor. She works with the seminarians formation, and also for some formation thing for the formators, the priests there. And the last but not the least, our General Late, our mother house, which is currently here in San Pablo. Despite their busy works in the house, they still try to work with the youth near their place. So they do catechism, and last December they had this sacramental preparation for the kids, for first communions, and they also do family visits, and their Sunday Mass neighborhood apostolate, wherein they do the catechism and feeding. And to sum up, as of the moment, our community, we have 32 perpetuals, 25 temporary profess, 1 novice, 1 aspirant, with a total number of 61. And that's all, Father. Thank you po.
So thank you, Sister Marian. You know what struck me while Sister Marian was reporting is the fact that they are a very young congregation. When did you first come together as a group? 1970?
As a group of sisters po, that was
Yes.
1991.
91. But the 2 public school teachers began their mission in
77.
1977. I would go back to that time, no? Because that was the beginning of it all, no? Through the help of your founders, Father Aureliano and Bishop Leodrona. Such a very young congregation, only 61 members, but I see a lot of energy. A lot of energy. I don't know if you sense that. Of course, the pictures were very nice, no? But with all their ministries, activities, there's a lot of energy in this congregation. Partly, I guess, because it's a very, the members are very young.
Yes, Father.
No, puro mga bata yung in the pictures. And in fact, they're already in the United States. They're already in the mission area. Yeah, it's just a point of curiosity, Sister Marian.
Yes, Father.
How did you get to the US? And
It was, yeah, the first one started because we have this, we call it Eucharistic Congress here in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And promoting it also, when we went to the US, the first one actually, Father, is in Russia in 1992, I think, 1992 Russia. There was a youth congress wherein our founder and other youth leaders na po were involved in that youth congress. And some of those, because these are from different countries, and the one from US saw that fire, as you said, Father, they witnessed that love, the energy. So they said it to their bishop in Nebraska. Our first touchdown was Nebraska. And through that, they started with the youth congress, Eucharistic Congress in Nebraska.
Okay. So
from there,
the bishop invited your group to go there.
Yes. And then also in Dover, wherein we really, because we really work with the youth. That's why they really want that also to happen, that Eucharistic Congress, which we also do here in the Philippines.
Yes. And you already have American vocations, no?
Yes, Father. And Latin also, Latinos we have.
Okay.
Yeah. And Caucasians also in Australia. The same. Everything started with the Eucharistic Congress po.
Okay.
Because that's, as I mentioned, the communal preparation vigil, which we do every first Friday and Saturday. Once a year, we gather all these youth in the different dioceses for a congress. Once a year. So it happened also the same outside. So they requested and it began from there.
Yes. You know, one learning insight that I personally got from Sister Marian is the importance of always being in touch with young people, with the youth, no? And to have meaningful, not just to be with the youth, no? But to have meaningful encounters with the youth. It's not enough for you to have a school.
Yes.
It's not enough for you to have a school, to teach them, give them a diploma, and also to get vocations. I'll tell you a secret. The Jesuits in the Philippines, we have 5 universities. 5 universities. So we're educating thousands of young people. And yet every year, sometimes there is no graduate of our school who enters the novitiate. I think it's important to have meaningful religious encounters with young people, and hopefully, with their being in touch with us, religious, hopefully they will consider entering religious life. I'm not saying that the students in our schools do not have religious experience. The problem is when you have a very big institution, and then how many Jesuits do you have in one university? When many students, in fact, many students of the Ateneo de Manila University has not met any Jesuit personally. Oh, they know the name of the president. They know the name of the principal or the vice president, but they have never had personal encounters with Jesuits. So that's a secret that I'd like to share with you. And I think that's an important insight that we can get to be in touch with young people, to sustain our ministries and apostolates with young people. Sir Odisa, you're raising your hand.
Yes, that's true, Father, because we also have our schools, and yet our concern now is the visibility of our sisters. They're all in the offices, and there is, I guess, less encounter with our students. So this time we also don't have formats coming from our schools.
Yes, yeah. So that's yeah, you're right. Many of your sisters are in the office. The same is true with us. I'm in the office. Father Rohel is in the office. The president is in the office. Sometimes even the chaplain is in the office. No? So there are very few, at least for us, no, teachers who are in the classrooms, Jesuits teaching in the classrooms, no? Which is quite different before, because when I was in college in the Ateneo, that was from 1982 to 86. Well, I was studying philosophy, so we had some Jesuit professors, no? So we had more encounters, but now there are minimal encounters by now. I'd like to ask the experience of the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary. You have schools. How are vocations, Sister Liselda, from your schools into the congregation?
It's the same story, Father. We
Good
don't
story, yes. Yes, so other congregations with schools who are here. The OMI, how about the OMI? Kakuku is here. Could you use the microphone? Maybe you can come up here so they can see you. The Oblates of Mary Immaculate, they have a number of schools in the Philippines and abroad.
I think for us is especially in Philippines, I think it's different case.
Yeah.
Majority of Filipino brothers, most of them they are from Oblate school because it's like Oblates they dominate in Mindanao. So
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. So majority of the student of the 4 months they come from our schools. Until in Caloocan, like NDGM, Notre Dame of Great Manila.
Oh yeah, in Caloocan.
Yes, so we have guys from our schools and also from Holo.
From Holo, yes.
So majority, but in Kenya we don't have schools, so we come from everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what might be the reason, what might be the reason how and why these students in your schools in the Philippines, they consider life as an oblate, as a vocation? What factors might you identify with that?
One of the factors that among us, the scholastics, during our summer exposure, there are those who are being sent to the school. So what motivates the young ones is we be with them, we live with them, we encourage them to join us. And those who are already professed, majority of them, they're in school ministry. They teach, and we have even dormitory where we encourage the indigenous people to stay with us. So through that also we have been able to catch a little bit of vocation.
Yes, yes.
Like
so
now we have incoming novices, 15 of them from
the oblate schools.
Yes, yes.
Wow. So there, I think again, it's the same, no? It's about meaningful encounters, meaningful spiritual encounters, but meaningful encounters as human beings, no? People who appreciate each other, and then the presence, the physical presence of us, consecrated and religious among young people. Would anyone have something to share about this contact with the youth, and how do you try to reach out to young people, even in the midst of our problems with the lack of manpower or women power in our congregation? Father Serge, do you have schools so far, or you have parishes, no? Father Serge?
Not here in the Philippines. We don't have any yet, but in other countries, yes. But that's also the problem. No, we have several universities in Canada, the French-speaking side.
Yes.
But the UDs has relegated the control to a lay board.
Yes.
And they have not kept in touch with the universities. But now that they have seemed to have accepted the reality that they will soon paid out, some of our old priests were saying it was a wrong decision to give away the universities. We should have been teaching there, mingling with the youth, as you said. No, it's. But by the way, Father, I met two law students in UP because they
Yes.
asked me to say mass for them. No, they were actually organizing this for the bar examiners. I think 3 months ago, and I met two who were in Ateneo in high school. That
Yes.
both said they were entertaining possibilities of becoming a priest before, because there were Jesuit priests who became a role model for them, but unfortunately it was not. But I'm
Sustained.
just thinking, yeah, what you full, it has to be sustained.
Correct. Yes. Father, what you were saying about the running of schools, no, with the dwindling manpower, the tendency is for no. But I think one possible move is to, to entrust these works to lay people and let the priests and religious teach in the classroom, do campus ministry, rather than be kept in the offices.
Yeah.
Sometimes lay people do much better than the way we do things, no?
That's
Yes.
right.
Takuku, something you'd like to say?
I would like to say, despite that the oblates have a good number coming from the school, still the vocation is not like before. Before, I think Philippine was the one leading with the vocations.
Yeah.
Like you can have 100 applying to join, but nowadays only 30, 24.
Yes.
But according to my observation, even back in Kenya, the problem is the vocation promoter. How can you assign someone who is 60 years to millennium? They will not understand each other.
Yeah.
And you will, when you go to meet the youths, they will tell you, your promoter is too old. She always speak like old ladies. You always speak like old people. So I think we should change the pedagogy of our way of promoting vocation.
Yes, right.
Assigning young people, like Julius now a formatter, he can understand those guys.
Yes.
Because they are almost the same area.
Yes.
So, but when it's a old person or someone who is older, we want millennium to be like him.
Oh, yes, correct.
And then they feel out of place and they run away. Ask many of them in classes, they will tell you, I cannot join priesthood because of so and so.
Yeah. So that's important also, no? Of course, the older ones, they have more wisdom, no? The older religious have more wisdom. And yeah, well, probably there are certain works and ministries that are fit for them. But the young formators and young vocation promoters, they need guidance. No? They need the guidance, they need the wisdom of those who have more experience. No? Yes, that's quite an important topic. And that's the reason why in April 13 to 15, we are organizing here in LST the International Conference, no, on youth ministry. So we'd like to learn more from the experiences, mostly of lay people, the lay groups who have a very strong ministry among young people, and also from experiences of Jesuits from abroad. We'd like to learn from their experience. Okay, so whether we are a big congregation or a small congregation, as long as we have energy to do great things for the Lord and the people of God, then we should not be discouraged, no, by our numbers. Sometimes we ourselves, we feel a bit discouraged. Why do we have only 5 new novices? We have a long history in the Philippines. Why only 5? Sometimes we can be tempted to kind of despair. So we should not despair. Just keep our energies up. Keep our spiritual energies up. Continue to support one another within our congregation. We have to be united. Once we kind of, fight among each other in the same congregation, that's the beginning of the end. No? Even if we are small, even if we face so many challenges in our congregation, we have to stick together. Because the young people can see that. They will notice that. this congregation, they don't seem to be happy. They seem to be always fighting one another. But anyway, that's it, no? The inspiration that we can share with young people in the light, to the help of the Holy Spirit, that is the most important. So it's both a combination of spiritual qualities, but also our human qualities as persons. I know in Vietnam there's a lot of vocation. There's a good deal of spirituality in Vietnam among young people. Although I heard gradually it's going down because I guess of whatever capitalism or whatever or socialism. But it's good to also learn from the experience of other countries. No? Yes. Anything we would like to share? Something from your own experience in your own congregation? Or like Angel here is a layman from the Diocese of Borongan. Maybe if we can ask Angel, how is the situation of vocations among the secular, the diocesan clergy there in Samar, in Borongan? Angel, could you unmute yourself? Do you have many vocations there? Angel, could you hear us? Unmute yourself, please. Angel, kamusta dyan ang vocations ng mga summer?
Opo. Here in the Diocese of Catarman po kami, Father.
Borongan pala, Catarman.
Yes po. We have pre-college in St. John Paul Seminary. Mga 35 to 65 seminarians po, including the high school, junior high school students, and then the senior high.
Okay, how many? 65 young boys.
Opo.
Okay.
So,
and then, what else? Do you have a college seminary there?
In Calbayog City po, St. Vincent de Paul Seminary, and then in theology in Palo Leyte.
In St. John the Evangelist.
Yes po, St. John the Evangelist po.
Okay.
So dito po sa amin sa Diocese ng Catarman, andito po yung pre-college and then senior high. Okay.
And among how many ordinations every year in the Diocese of Catarman?
So far po, every year nakatatapos lang ng ordination ng dito sa Catarman. We have 4 newly ordained priests.
Okay.
And then one of them is my cousin.
Oh,
Ayun
you
po.
have a cousin.
Yes
Okay.
po.
And average every year, how many ordinations every year?
From the diocese po, one sa diocese po kasi once lang po. So sa whole region or sa Metropolitan Palo, mga 6 times po.
How many get ordained priests every year?
Mga 15 to 20 po.
For the whole province?
For the whole Metropolitan Archdiocese of Palo.
Okay, yes. And Angel is a lay person, as you know, as you see. How do lay people help promote vocations to the religious life and to the priesthood? How do
from our parishes po, we help on vocation po as a catechist. Ayun po, nakakatulong po kami sa mga gustong magpare. We are motivating them to enter the religious life. And
Yes.
then ayun po.
And in Samar, in general, the culture is more or less still religious. No? There's a religious culture still around. People still go to church, attend mass.
Always po. Na-preserve po yung tradition na it is a grace from God na we have a priest in our family. So
Okay.
yun po yung So ganun po ka religious dito yung mga tao sa Samar. So, ayun po.
So were you a seminarian before?
Muntik na po.
Okay.
May letter na po. Actually, from the Franciscan, they are
Okay.
just waiting for me from the Order of the Friar Minor. Almost 3 years na po sila nag-aantay to enter the religious, the congregation.
Okay.
Apo.
So what happens next? Are you considering still the vocation?
So I'm the ako din po yung curator ng museum, so medyo nahihirapan po ako
You're working.
Opo.
Okay. So that's it. No? So let's thank Sister Marian for the presentation on the 11 of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. No, let's clap for Sister Marian. Salamat.
There also.
Yeah, the
Thank
nice
you po.
video there. That was a nice video, a short video introducing your congregation.
Thank you po.
It was made in the US. It's US made.
Apo, one of our sister po.
That's a very nice presentation. Okay, so thank you so much. So next class, well, we actually have four presentations. No, next class. So, and also, of course, we'll have Julie to join the presentation. No. Yeah, sure. You can be the last. No. Yes. Okay, and then Kipupu, what if we still have time next week? You cannot.
Yeah, I can.
You can still present next week. Okay.
I will use what I used in Norwich.
Yes. Okay, that's good. So, are there questions that you might want to ask? Yes, Sister Eugenia.
Sorry, I came in late.
Okay, yeah, Sister Eugenia is here. Okay. So thank you. See you next week for the presentation of the other classmates. Let's close with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was
in the beginning, is now,
now,
and will be
shall
forever.
be, world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So see you next week.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Father.